Alex DeSteiger, winter caretaker at Star Island off the New Hampshire coast. What's it like living on an island off the New Hampshire coast that is deserted during the wintertime? So this is the first time I've learned that a person has actually stayed on the island or been on the island during the deserted winter months. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of people probably don't know that little fact. So 27 years ago, I was visiting a friend out on Appledore Island and learned that they were looking for caretakers on Star. So we checked it out, had the right qualifications, and they hired us. And were looking for someone that could stay on the island throughout the winters and check the buildings and make sure that the weather didn't get into the buildings and that everything was okay and in good shape. And that's the job. And I've been doing it now for a long time.
Solo, right? I mean, you're out there all alone?
Yeah, I started, there's two of us that are the winter caretakers, but one of them, the other one is sort of shoreside, so he takes care of any of my needs of supplies or parts or groceries or anything that I might need out there in the winter. And then also if something comes up, if a storm does some kind of damage where I can't, batten it down myself, he comes out and helps with that, and he's there sometimes for, bits of time. But yeah, no, I'm the one that's there full time, mostly alone, and I don't leave the island during the winter. I stay out there the whole time for 5 months.
I was curious about that, how you get sustained. And is there a boat available that takes supplies out? Obviously.
Yes, the Star Island leases a boat services from Captain Jack Farrell, and he actually was working for the island for many years, but now he's running the boat, and he brings out whatever I need. He's the guy. There's no regular boat in the winter. In the summer there's sort of regular services of boats that go out there, but
Sure.
In the winter it's just Jack. And occasionally if I need something bad, and I've gotten the occasional part or something from a lobsterman who's passing by, so there's a lovely lobstering community of people who lobster in the winter. It's a very small community because not a lot of people lobster in winter, but they're really kind, and they've helped me out a few times.
What's it like living out there?
It's quiet, and it's beautiful, and it's a serene place, and then it's stormy, and it's full of wildlife, and I don't know, it's hard to describe. It's a little surreal, and sometimes I still can't believe that I get to experience that every winter, but it's hard to describe. I think you kind of have to do it yourself to know fully what it's like. But I try to describe it, I guess, in my work as an artist, in my photographs, and in some of my writing, and a book that I produced.
Yes, I want to talk about that too. Are you able to get either electricity or heat?
Yes. There is electricity. It is in the very beginning years when I was out there, it was provided by a generator, and so I would run the generator and charge batteries, and then I would use that power until the batteries ran out. But I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, they installed a large solar array out there. In fact, it's one of the largest offshore solar arrays in the United States. And so I get my electricity from that. And there's a large battery bank that holds a lot of power. And I heat a little bit with the solar electric, but it's not quite enough to provide enough warmth in winter. So I also have a pellet stove that I heat with out there.
So sometimes cold, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes very cold. In fact, these are old buildings out there, and the wind often gets into the buildings a little bit through the cracks and, around the windows. And so you can, in the old hotel, I can actually feel a breeze blowing down the halls in the winter months when there's a storm.
Are you in an upper floor of the Star Island Hotel?
No, No, the hotel is not insulated for winter. There's a house, there's a caretaker's house. It's called the Elliott Memorial Building, and it is insulated and fully capable of you know keeping me alive in winters. There's a cistern under the building, and I catch water from the roof when it rains, and it fills that cistern, and that's the water I use, and that keeps the water from freezing because it's under the building.
28 years there. You must love it.
I do, yes. This will be my 28th winter. I do love it. Yeah.
Let's talk about your book.
Okay.
Small Island, Big Picture?
Yep. It's I think I put it out in 2013, and that was after 16 winters on the island. And it is 69 black and white photographs and some stories and writings that I've done are accompany it. And it's it's not quite a coffee table book, although it's a larger book, but it's more a combination of words and images, which I find is more powerful as a way to express myself.
Is it out now, Alex?
Yes, you can find it on my website at alexdesteiger.com, or just Google. If you don't know how to spell my name, if people just Google Winter Caretaker Star Island, they'll find me. I also do a lot of posting to Facebook, and only in the winters, pretty much. And I just the things I'm observing, while being out there, and people seem to really enjoy that. There's a large community of people that summer on Star Island, and they want a little taste of what winter's like out there. So a lot of my followers are the summer people.
Are you happy to leave the island in the summer?
Yeah, I've only been a few times in the summer. I don't go mostly at all in the summer, but I've been a few times, and it's a really lovely atmosphere. The people are so nice, and it's a real community. You get the feeling that people are so happy to be there. A lot of them call it their spirit's home because it's almost a spiritual place for a lot of people. They just feel deeply about it, and they have these wonderful conferences in the summer, and so it's quite a happening place. It's really it's also very different than any place I think that I've ever known. It's unusual. It sort of harks back to the past in a lot of ways, where there's community and people aren't just always on their devices, and people are engaging with each other and smiling and watching sunsets, and it's really nice.
Let's talk about the Star Island annual fundraiser, Starry Night, and your role in it as a featured speaker. Obviously, you'll be leaving the island to come ashore for that one.
Yes. So I'll have been out there for a couple of weeks. In fact, I'm moving out on Friday to the island, and then coming back in for that. That's probably the only thing I'll come in for this winter. But it's Starry Night. It's a fundraiser. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's November 16th from 5 to 7:30, and there's going to be live music by David Shapiro, and I think there's going to be some food and beverages provided by local breweries and restaurants, and I'm going to give a talk. I think probably earlier in the evening than later. So anyone coming late might miss it. If you want to get there on time. But I'm giving a talk about the beings and the elements that are intrinsic to a place and make it what it is. And in winter, it's the wild community that takes over out there, and they are the denizens of that place.
I would think that people would be at that talk. It's at the Portsmouth Historical Society on Middle Street. I would think that people would be as curious as I am about the conditions there and how you live out there.
Yeah, I've given talks at a number of places over the years, and the question and answer period after my talk is usually pretty lively. People are very curious about what it's like, and I go into detail about it, and it's a lot of fun to tell people things that they hadn't thought of living in winter.
I didn't. Yeah. I mean, I was obviously oblivious to it until I heard from Kathleen. I mean, it's you 28 years coming up, and not too much publicity.
Yeah, I'm a very private person mostly, so I don't. I as an artist, I probably should be more of a mover and shaker and getting the word out there more that I exist and here's my art. But I'm just I'm private, so I think a lot of people probably don't know about me and my work. But that's okay. I kind of like it that way.
Have you had some wild times weather-wise out there?
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. The storms out there are incredible. In fact, it's funny. When you're on the mainland, in winter there could be just a little breeze, but then you go out to the islands and it's blowing gale force winds, and it's quite different. It's quite windy out there, and and the storms that come through, there will be often hurricane force winds, which is 65 knots and over, and that's really strong wind. And I've definitely seen some of those types of storms, and the waves get massive, and they just pound the island, and they shoot so high and cover big portions of the wide eastern ledges out there. It's quite spectacular to watch, and there's been some damage over the years, especially recently with the combination of the higher tides and the storms. This past winter was pretty hairy, and some damage happened. Of course, it happened all along the seacoast, but it also had some damage out there from it. But it was quite something to watch.
Do you photograph safely some of the wild storms there?
I do. I'm always safe. I mean, I know what I'm doing. I know how far to keep away from those waves. But it's hard because I shoot with a medium format camera. It's old. It doesn't even have a battery, and I still shoot film. And those shutter speeds on the old cameras is like an eighth of a second, and you can't catch a lot of action with that. And when there's storms, there's so much spray flying, horizontally through the air that it would just saturate anything that I'm trying to use. So I photograph from inside buildings and things, but I don't have a lot of storm images. I've got storm footage, but not a lot of pictures with my old camera. I take some just snapshots with some digital camera that I don't care as much about, and it's slightly waterproof, so that's what I use. But
I guess you need a sports action camera to catch that action.
I do, yeah. I suppose I do, and I'm not that into digital. I don't particularly enjoy shooting digital, other than just fun snapshots like everybody does. My heart is really in my black and white photography
And film, right?
Yes, film and the darkroom where I print on the mainland. I've got a little darkroom, yeah, I like doing it that way. It feels hands-on, and just I feel more involved, and I don't know, it's just more pleasurable to me and more creative feeling.
I'm going to wrap up, but do you get a chance to speak to any of the visitors out there when it's good season?
Oh, in the summer, yeah. There's no visitors in the winter, but in the summer, yes, sure. I've talked to folks out there. Really, really nice folks. Great community.
And you talk about some of your life out there to them?
Yes, I have given some talks out there in the summer. I have these two presentations that I've given a number of times, and including out there. So people have a sense of what it's like in the winter from me, and yeah.
You're a major part of the event, which also includes live music. Connecticut classical guitarist David Shapiro, and also a raffle of gift cards and art and other things. So this is an important fundraiser, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I believe it's Star Island's major fundraiser event for the year, and people look forward to it every year. It's a lot of fun, yeah. In fact, I think I've given the Starry Night presentation 2 other times. One time was Zoom. It was during the pandemic, and I was on the island, and everyone, of course, was isolating. So I called in from the island on Zoom and gave the presentation that way.
Alex de Steiger, winter caretaker at Star Island off the New Hampshire coast.